This man can create anything out of nothing. Probably he is poor and lives in the slums. But there are no problems with food, because he can create it instantly. No clothes, that is also not a problem, because he can create them just by imagining. And his power? Him. Suppose he can use almost all skills. The only limit is imagination. But before spoiling the fun, let's start the story. Those who fight monsters in this world and save the land of Eldorado. Hagito among many adventurers is the highest ranked group. This is the party of heroes. However, a member of that party, Rick, was shockingly expelled from his party. A month before this, Heinz von Grandine, the second prince of the Grandine Empire and a hero, ordered Rick to hand over a replacement sword. Rick knelt on one knee and handed it to him. He is Rick von Newfield, the second son of Viscount Newfield and a support mage. Layla warned Rick not to make Heinz wait, and Sasha asked Heinz to act more carefully. But he just smiled and said that she was too worried. He shone with arrogance and rushed at the Minotaur, confident that no minor enemy could withstand his swordsmanship. Indeed, as always, he goes too far. Rick activated Class 2, Windstorm and Power Magic to support Heinz, who clicked his tongue in irritation. The Minotaur raised his fists, but before he could do anything, Heinz had already cut him in half with his sword. The members of the hero's squad were impressed by him, except Sasha. She knew that thanks to Rick's magic, Heinz was able to defeat the Minotaur. As if on command, Heinz looked at Rick, doubting whether he thought he would lose without his support magic, and warned him not to interfere in vain. And Rick, although he had prepared a plan just in case, remained silent and nodded in agreement so as not to cause trouble. Fennis, the shooter of their team, marked as F for clarity, praised Heinz, further fueling his ego, and suddenly a magic circle appeared under their feet, so Sasha warned to step back because it was dangerous. But both could not move because the magic circle had already activated, and it summoned a bunch of monsters. This is a magic summoning circle. Rick asks them to hurry, but Heinz's strength weakened with every second he remained in the magic circle. It was at that moment the Minotaur raised its axe to attack Heinz and Fennis. Rick appeared between them, using Class 2 Windstorm magic, but Heinz Ketchup complained that Rick was too slow. Sasha informed everyone that the summoned monsters needed to be forcibly driven away as soon as time passed, and it was doubtful they would hold out until then, especially since the so-called hero asked to be saved first. Rick applied third-class healing magic to Heinz, who told everyone to gather for now. They would keep their distance and eliminate the monsters one by one from behind. Did he want to make a passage? In that case, Rick ordered them to stand in front and said he would attack with Class 2 Windstorm magic. Heinz signaled Fennis to execute their plan before running with her. She turned and shot an arrow with a scented pouch toward Rick. Heinz smiled and left the rest to the worthless Rick. Rick's eyes widened in shock. He was made bait. He had to fend off all the monsters, and the others fled. The only one left was Sasha, who attacked the monsters with third-class fire arrow magic. However, they did not come down and only looked at her threateningly. Heinz prevented her from intervening, but she insisted on helping Rick because she could not ignore what Heinz had done and would definitely report it to the Emperor. Heinz turned away and ordered Layla to watch over her. Layla grabbed Sasha and tried to pull her out with them, but when Sasha objected, Layla could not do otherwise. She stunned her and carried her away, while Rick watched this and did not understand how they could abandon him since they were comrades. He gritted his teeth, strengthening his magical barrier, reflecting on what he had done to deserve this. Maybe because he was from the Visconti family, or because he was an illegitimate son, or because he was a support mage. Whatever the case, he would survive, and when he cast a second-class shield magic, his barrier broke, allowing the monsters to attack him. He suffered greatly, but just when he thought it was the end for him, his head began to throb. Flashes of images of Earth, Japan, science, and Trokakun appeared. This is a memory, but whose? Wait, his? Rick's memories? Correct. Now he remembers. Suddenly a bullet of light fell on him, which pitied him because he was dying like that. Well, he's not some other hero. Wait, he's starting to remember even more memories. The voice in the light asked if he managed to remember everything. Rick answered affirmatively to the goddess who suddenly appeared before him. However, the memories of how he died last time are still blurry. It seems he subconsciously blocks them because it was traumatic for him. And the goddess reassured him that it was normal, and that he didn't have to force himself to remember it. From the foggy memories in his head, it is visible that he died protecting someone, but that person was still not saved. He sighed. It seemed he died again, but to his surprise, the goddess said he did not die. She intervened with divine power because the power she gave him had not yet been used. Rick was puzzled. He reincarnated and received support magic, but he earned that by his own efforts. At first it was supposed to awaken when he turned 16, what she actually gave him. His creation, sacred magic. It allows enhancing existing spells and creating things. In principle, it is too powerful. He will understand when the time comes. But now it is time for him to wake up. The goddess kissed the crown of his head and tossed him into the air. Rick protested because he still had questions. But he had to return now. The goddess only prays that he is happy in this life. Rick suddenly woke up, his eyes instantly opened wide. He got up, touched his head, felt blood, and did not immediately understand if it was a dream. No, it was not. The monsters around him are now all on the ground. This is divine intervention. He is still surrounded, but now he is filled with power. He imagines Sasha from a minute ago who is performing second-class magic flame arrow. But not only that, he wants the flame to be even hotter and burn blue. Rick applied Class 3, Flash Emergence, Creation of the Flame Arrow, Holy Magic. They all hit the monsters around him and burned their bodies. Rick, who was now standing, he fell to his knees, trembling all over. It's not just about power, it also consumes a lot. Due to exhaustion, he fainted on the spot. When Rick came to, he was lying on Sasha's knees. She was crying and apologizing again and again. It seemed they had returned. Heinz snorted from behind and said Rick was lucky to survive. Everyone was saved. His strategy turned out to be brilliant. As always, he was the hero of the group saving the world. Rick slowly closed his eyes, recalling the words of the goddess who told him to be happy. He wondered if she would advise him to use the acquired power to save the world. Several days passed, and Rick has been recovering well since then. He sat on the bed, looking out the window and doubting whether he should stay in the hero team. At that moment, there was a knock at the door. Sasha entered the room. She sat on a chair by his bed and asked how he was feeling. Rick assured her that he was completely fine now. Sasha sighed and blushed at the thought that Rick always saves her. Seeing Rick's puzzled expression, Sasha asked if he remembered their first meeting. Of course he remembered. It turned out she was a noble lady undercover, and Rick would never forget that. 4 years ago, when someone tried to kidnap Sasha in the city, he saved her. Rick then laughed and teased her about her clothes, then scratched his cheek, recalling that he himself was badly hurt at that time. Sasha stood up and insisted that he still looked cool. She just realized what she said, and her face quickly turned red with embarrassment, and ran out the door to leave, although she promised to check on him again later. Rick sat confused. When she finally left, his thoughts returned to the memory from 4 years ago. Back then, he was a simple guy, but after saving the Duke's 2 daughters, he was lucky to become the second son of the Newfield family, and because of that he joined the hero party, and even now could speak freely with Sasha. Otherwise, he could lose his only friend Sasha. It is unbecoming for a nobleman to recklessly leave the hero team alone. This could lead to something much worse, and besides, Heinz might find a reason to expel him from the city. No, if everything goes wrong, the Emperor might punish him. He cannot allow that. If he comes and says he will leave the party, he might as well go straight to death, because he will die anyway. It's too dangerous. It seems there is no other choice. He will have to do it. Right now, Rick was carrying 2 bags of luggage and complaining that he had to pay for everyone's infi. Heinz explained that it was obvious because he was good for nothing. Rick ran up to him and complained that his wallet was empty, and Heinz frowned because of his behavior, as he responded arrogantly and didn't even understand whom he was addressing. He is a prince, so he pushed Rick aside, and Rick staggered, and dropped a book from his bag. Fennis immediately crouched down to look. As soon as she opened it, their faces darkened. She ran to Heinz and handed it to him. When he read the words inside, veins appeared on his cheek from anger, and he turned to Rick, asking what it was. Rick trembled, cursed, and felt frustrated. These were his daily complaints, his true feelings as a man and his desires, and his entire diary was open to them. If the family finds out, he will be expelled. No, he cannot allow it to end like this. Even despite the imperial decree, if the Emperor finds out about it, it's the end for him, and now it is unknown what will happen to him. Fennis, watching him fail, thought that he had finally lost his mind. Meanwhile, Heinz smiled and thought, all right, I will fulfill his wish. And so Rick was expelled from the hero team. Fennison and Layla have no objections to this. It seems they are satisfied. Even Sasha, the only person Rick was close to, had no choice but to carry out Heinz's will. Heinz smiled smugly at Rick and warned him never to appear before them again, before leaving together with the other members of the group. The old man approached Rick to check if he was all right, but trembling Rick only thanked him for his concern and went into the alley. There he finally laughed, releasing a long-held laughter. He is glad it worked. Indeed, it worked. Now he won't have to travel anymore with that selfish prince. Sasha probably hates him now. He wanted it himself, so nothing can be done. But the exception from the hero party will not go unnoticed by his family. After Rick restored memories of his previous life, he got tired of Heinz's way of working, so he began to behave in a way to get himself expelled. The plan worked, but Gordo, the master of the house, will not remain silent about this. If he considers Rick unnecessary and disowns him, it will be for the best. Then he should just run away. Wait, no, if it seems that he ran away, His mother will also be in danger, so he urgently needs to go to Dordland. After 3 days of walking, Rick finally reached the Grandine Empire, Dordland. He is exhausted, but he managed to try the magic of Genesis and learned a lot, so not everything was bad. Now he needs to decide which role to play, but he cannot think clearly because he has spent too much mana. When he was walking inattentively, the girl suddenly stood up with a box in her hands and pushed Rick with her butt, causing him to fall. She apologized in panic, but Rick thought that he should be the one to apologize. The girl looked at him embarrassed. Probably she had seen him somewhere before. Suddenly she bowed and apologized fervently because she had just noticed a golden stripe on his collar and did not know that he was from the Newfield house. And Rick waved his hand and reassured her that everything was fine, and there was no need to worry because now he was essentially an ordinary person. To apologize, Rick helped her load the cart. Then he asked if he could help with anything else, and the girl replied that she did not need anything else because he had already helped her enough. Rick patted her on the head and praised her for diligence in carrying out tasks for the family. Oh, it is unknown why he acted that way. For a stranger, it must seem too familiar. Seeing that she was laughing and not complaining, he sighed with relief. It seemed she was not so dissatisfied. She quickly came to her senses and said that was not the case. In fact, she had come here to buy goods for her own shop. Rick was surprised because he thought she was just a maid. But being a shop owner is amazing, although she was pretty enough to make him worried. She thanked him again for the help. She asked him to visit her shop if he ever came to Zurich, and Rick wondered if it was the same one from Jolt Commercial Nation because that was where his mother's family lived. In any case, they said goodbye. He watched as the carriage drove away and suddenly remembered that he had not asked her name. But never mind. Somehow he felt they would meet again. At that moment, a private carriage with a falcon crest appeared behind him. He could not believe it. It had only been 3 days since he left the party. The footman got out of the carriage, bowed to Rick, and informed him that the young lady was waiting for him. As expected, they respond quickly. 4 years ago, he saved 2 young ladies, Sasha and Amelia. The young lady the butler meant, full name. Amelia von Runesaber, the second daughter of Duke Runesaber and at the same time his fiancée. Rick sat opposite Amelia, who asked if he understood what it meant to be expelled from the party of heroes. He understood it. He would be expelled from the Viscount's family, and their engagement would be broken. That is how it would be. He was originally a commoner, so he was simply returning to his usual life. Amelia noticed that he was strangely happy about this and observed that he had somehow changed. His connection with her only worked because he was in the same party as the first prince. But now that everything was cancelled, he was left with nothing. She took off her shoes, warned him to watch his head, and ordered him to kneel before her. Rick agreed, knelt on one knee because he was so obedient, so she would give him a chance. She lifted his chin with her foot and said that he could still remain a nobleman if he agreed to their engagement. The Lord ordered not to let him pass, but even if they were engaged, it would change nothing. He knew who she was. It was simply not what he wanted. Well, she was not forcing him. It was his choice not to accept. But he should think about it because the opportunity to remain a nobleman and not become the Emperor's target was a good offer. It's true, Newfield would definitely renounce him. And depending on Heinz's actions, the Emperor might even target him. Maybe this concerns not only him, even his mother could be dragged in. But even in that case, he would no longer hesitate. Rick put Amelia in her place, saying that it was unworthy of her. Amelia blushed and called him, but he had already stepped out of the carriage. Before leaving, he bowed to her, grateful for all her previous kindness. Then he closed the carriage door, ignoring her screams from inside. The butler approached Rick and asked if this was really his decision. Rick answered affirmatively. Thanks to this, he found determination. After all, their statuses were different. The butler understood, but it was a pity, because Amelia's smile was unmatched only when she was with him. She never showed them that smile. Rick was about to say something, but the butler had already bowed to say goodbye. And so Rick continued his journey and finally reached the Newfield house. A long time had passed since he last saw his real father. He has a plan, but he needs to check how much the fake gold made by magic will hold up. All right, he is doing it. He approached the gates, but the guards stopped him. Seeing him scratch the back of his head and ask if they knew him, Rick Vogan Newfield. He is actually the second son here, so they treat him that way. The guards explained that Did ordered not to let anything through because of him. He knows this well, so he wants to talk to his brother Did. It was then that someone laughed contemptuously. It was Didva Newfield, the eldest son of Viscount Newfield. And suddenly he had grown bigger since Rick last saw him. He grabbed the gate and said that from the very beginning he was against accepting a commoner into their house. Rick ignored his words and gave him fake gold. It was a small gift for him. He took it with a sneer, thinking that this pitiful money would buy forgiveness. He opened the sack and grabbed the suspicious jar. Rick was accused of stealing that jar from the medicine shelf in the mansion and planning to poison him. Rick was stunned. He never put anything in that jar. It seems to be his plan. Hard to believe they are relatives. Suddenly, a commanding voice ordered them to calm down. It was Gordo von Newfield, head of the Newfield Viscount family and lord of the Dordland territory, saying that Rick supposedly tried to poison him, claiming that Rick probably hates him because he is the legitimate heir, and accusing Rick of forgetting the favor to Gordo and trying to overthrow the Newfield family to take its place. And this jar he is holding is undoubtedly evidence. Rick couldn't help but smile. It seems they are already prepared to drive him out. Gordo turned to him. He thought he might still be useful, but Heinz called him incompetent and even broke off his engagement with the Duke's daughter. After all, he is just the son of a woman of low birth. Rick frowned at this. This fat man dared to call his mother lowborn. He grabbed the gate and demanded that the other take back his offensive words. Most likely, his incompetence is explained by the fact that new blood of this sphere flows in him. Gordo hit him with a stick, then turned away, claiming that he is no longer from Newfield, so he must leave all evidence of their house and never appear before them again. He also needs to take his mother out of this town because he knows what will happen then. Although Rick was expelled, he smiled. This is more than he could hope for. The nobleman's order is indisputable. With it, he will take his mother without problems. He stood by the gate and laughed at Rick. Serves him right. He did not love him for a long time, so he should not think that he and his mother will leave here alive and unharmed. This man plans to pursue them. It seems Rick really dragged his mother into this. In the lowest part of the empire, in the slums, Rick wore only shorts and nothing else. He feels like time has stopped. The city looks the same. Even the smell hasn't changed in 4 years. He stopped near the house at the end of the street. Here it is. Just like in his memories, his mother's house. In any case, they need to leave the city before. His pursuers are catching up. The main thing is that he somehow gets his mother out of here. Rick knocked on the door and was surprised himself. His mother Maris joyfully rushed forward to hug him and welcome him home. He is relieved to see that his mother looks well, but does not understand how she found out about his arrival. She wiped away tears. It is natural. She is very proud of her son, who grew up to be a worthy young man. Rick was about to explain what happened. When he suddenly sneezed, Maris offered him a handkerchief because she was afraid he would catch a cold. That was all they had left at home. Rick took it and asked if it was really allowed, and Maris assured him that it was good quality fabric and she had probably kept it for a long time. In that case, use it as material. He imagined clothes that would suit his mother. He touched her shoulder and used Class 2. Creation. Holy magic transforms both their clothes for the better, and the fabric wrapped around his shoulders. Maris was impressed and said it was like magic. Exactly. He learned this during his travels. It's really wonderful. She felt she could also cook better. She served 2 bowls of what looked like soup. Here is a simple quick recipe. You need potatoes and salted water. First peel the potatoes. Remove sprouts and cut into pieces. Then boil the water. Salt it. Add the potatoes and cook until soft. Now you can eat. Rick tasted with a spoon and began to doubt if the soup was edible. It was very bitter. Better forget this recipe. Don't try this at home, guys. The problem is not only his mother's cooking skills. The vegetables are grown on poor soil with a sharp, salty taste. It's real torture. Ah, right, there is also this. He imagined simmering chicken bones with aromatic vegetables, skimming the foam, evaporating the liquid, thickening it. And here is the recreated dish from his past life after many trials and errors. Class 2, Creation, Sacred Magical Chicken, Consumable Item. He put it in his bowl, told Mary he made this seasoning himself, and asked her to try it at least once, even if she didn't believe him. She was interested in this magical seasoning and agreed to try without hesitation. Rick handed her his bowl to try, and it was very tasty. There were so many flavors in the soup. She loves it very much, but only a little is left. It would be a pity to throw it away. It must be saved. Rick assured her not to worry because he can do it any time. It really is that tasty. She wants Grandpa and Grandma Rick to try it too, that's all. Rick takes the opportunity to leave the city with her, so he hurriedly asked her to visit his grandfathers and grandmothers. He doesn't want them to worry, so it's better for him not to say anything unnecessary. She hasn't been home for a long time. If she is with him, they can pass through the gates while he is still a nobleman. Maris agreed. She herself was just thinking of returning home. Rick was surprised. As far as he knew, ordinary people were not allowed to freely leave the country or return to it, and she was going to do exactly that. He snapped out of his thoughts when Mary stood up and said they had to go now. Rick thought they should pack first, but she replied that it was not necessary because they had almost nothing. At that moment, they heard a voice shouting outside. They are asking about Rick. Did it happen after people betrayed him? He ordered his men to beat them, but Rick came out and stopped them. They are leaving the city as he demanded, so he should release these people. But that only made him even angrier. He dares to give him orders. He angrily stomped and threw a pouch of fake gold coins that Rick had given him. He found out they were counterfeit, although he says it just like that. Rick knew that he was not the one who figured it out, but his servant got angry and ordered his men to seize Rick. Barks but does not bite. The men laughed and snapped their fingers as they approached Rick. They warned him that if he tried to do anything, his mother would be in danger. Rick turned around and realized that his mother had also been captured. The men asked if they could do whatever they wanted with her after they caught Rick, and he replied that they could. Look at her. She looks like a simple-minded woman, a merchant's daughter or someone else. If she can lie with a man she does not love, then she is for the streets. Unable to endure this slander any longer, Rick shouted in anger, but Mary stopped him and asked him to just forget about her. He sneered. It was funny. They pretended to be a family, ignoring the past. No one could love a child with golden blood. He ordered her to tell Rick the truth. Rick looked at her confused. I wonder what that was about. But she just said that he was very sweet when he was born. He scratched his ear and could not understand the nonsense she was saying. The men holding Rick suddenly laughed when they noticed he was crying. They held him while Dide was preparing to strike. But before he could do anything, Rick used Class 2, a mighty creature, sacred magic, and a strike against the two men holding him. The last one attacked him with a knife, but Rick quickly dodged and hit him on the head. Those who held his mother tried to attack her, but Rick rushed there, used Class 2, created a windstorm and holy magic, and knocked them down. He stood there, trembling, and could not believe that Rick had taken down his men in an instant. He was supposedly chosen for the hero party only because of connections. When Rick returned to him, he stepped back but fell to the ground and ordered him not to come closer. He claimed that killing among nobles was forbidden, hoping this would stop Rick from any actions. It seems he forgot, but Rick had already been expelled from the Newfield family. Hearing this, Mary realized her suspicions were confirmed. Rick apologized because he simply did not dare to say it. She assured him that he had nothing to apologize for, because he would always be her son no matter what. Rick smiled, agreed, and took the stone. Tear it into pieces as he threatened. If he attacks them again, his head will eventually explode. The boar was so scared that he wet his pants. Now it is done. Rick and Maris have to go. They fled together to the western gate. At the same time, the carriage of the girl Rick met in the city. Bandits attacked him. She held the reins of the horse, prayed that someone would come and help her. As planned, Rick was expelled from both the Heroes Party and the Newfield family, so he left the Grandin Empire with his mother and headed to his homeland, the trading state of Jilk. Rick got back on the wagon after knocking down a flying creature. As befits an adventurer who once traveled with a hero, the coachman Thomas was impressed. Perhaps the story that he simultaneously defeated 10 Minotaurs turned out to be true. Maris asked if it was true, and Rick replied that it was, but others still did not believe him. In any case, Rick thanked Thomas for the borrowed sword, and Mary's apologized, and asked Thomas to look after them until they reached the trading nation of Jilk. Throughout the entire journey, Rick did not sleep and stood guard. It is too quiet here. It is hard to believe that monsters even exist. Because of this, he feels sleepy. Maris noticed that he was yawning and suggested he rest a little, but he refused. Compared to how he traveled with Heinz, this is a trifle. He assured her that he was fine. After all, they never know what might happen. But he jinxed himself. He noticed bandits running through the forest. Thomas was worried, but since they had not noticed them yet, he felt a little better and thought they were probably chasing someone else. Rick looked ahead and realized they were chasing a wagon. His guards were probably defeated. The horses are panicking too. The wagon will overturn. Maybe the coachman is not there. In that case, Thomas suggested simply driving along the highway, since Early was a bit further. Rick was already about to agree. When the girl in the carriage suddenly screamed for help, he recognized her face. He decided to save her. Thomas stopped him because he feared the bandits could catch up at any moment. No matter how much he wanted to help, it was already too late. But Rick remained stubborn and insisted on going because the person inside was still alive and calling for help. Thomas pondered how he would save them. Using his cart or horses was impossible because he could not lend them to Rick. Then Rick would run there, and so he jumped off the cart and began running through the forest at incredible speed. Meanwhile, one of the bandits caught up with the cart and cornered the girl. He was about to attack her with a knife. When Rick ran up and hit the bandit in the face, he dropped the weapon and fell. He landed inside the carriage and asked if everything was all right. It is dangerous in the carriage now. They need to jump down. Rick extended his hand to her, and when she took it, he carried her out just seconds before the carriage overturned. She thanked him, but seeing the rest of the bandits approaching, she worried that he would also die if this continued. She is a kind girl. caring about others first and foremost, not about herself. 4 bandits instantly surrounded them. They dismounted and rushed to attack the two. Just as the bandits approached them, Rick defended himself using the second-class skill of creating windshield glass with holy magic. Meanwhile, the robbers caused chaos. Rick took the opportunity and destroyed them. The girl looked around in surprise and thanked him for the rescue. Then she introduced herself as Luna and apologized for the late introduction. Rick said he was not a hero when she called him a hero, and asked her to just call him by his name. Luna remembered that they seemed to have met somewhere before. Rick agreed. It was in Dortland, but Luna meant not that. She was sure they had met earlier, Rick pondered. The recent meeting did not look like the first, but he did not remember any earlier meeting, because he could not possibly forget someone as sweet as her. Luna turned away, blushed, and thanked him. Realizing his words, Rick awkwardly turned around, and it seemed that at that moment he was flirting with her. The bandit, whom he had previously knocked down in the carriage, approached from behind and grabbed Luna. He was determined to finish the job as requested. Seeing Luna struggle, Rick drew his sword and panicked, and cut off the bandit's head. He realized what he had done only when the bandit was already dead. Luna thanked Rick for saving her a second time, but was confused when he did not respond. She saw him standing, trembling, and muttering that he had killed someone. He was breathing heavily, clutching his chest, and trying to understand what he had done. He was attacked first, so he was defending himself, and if he had not killed, he himself would now be dead. That's how the world works. He knows that. But still, this is the first time he has killed a person. I cannot rewrite graphic descriptions of violence, but I can offer a less detailed version. All this got stuck in Rick's head. It's disgusting. At that moment, Luna sat down in front of him and took his hand, and asked if it was the first time he had killed someone. Rick put his hand to his face. In this world, to live, you have to steal, deceive, use others, and even kill. For everyone, this is normal, but he reacts this way after killing only one person. He is pathetic. Luna pulled Rick's hand away from his face. She objected. She did not consider him pathetic. No, not at all. As he said, in this world taking life is a common thing. But if someone can kill without hesitation, she would despise them. She could never consider the one who protected her pathetic. For her, he is a savior. Rick somehow recovered. Class 2. The power of love. Just kidding, but she herself was probably afraid. Yet she is the one who calms him. Luna is so strong. He took her hand before standing up. Now he is okay thanks to her. Luna was glad she could help. She tried to stand up, but her legs were trembling, so Rick had to support her. Embarrassed, she apologized. She said something too confident, but it seems she is weak here. Suddenly, noise interrupted their conversation. A cart was rushing towards them, so Thomas called out to Rick worriedly and asked if he was okay. Seeing that they were safe, Rick felt relieved. Meanwhile, Luna apologized and with his help tried to stand up. Rickward looked at her, and then to the carriage. Eventually, he made them worry about how pathetic he was. But before that, he could no longer watch her suffer. So he took Luna in his arms and she blushed. For now, he will take her back to the cart they arrived in. Luna absent-mindedly asked him to keep holding her like that. But when she realized what she had just said, she quickly apologized and corrected herself. If she said that, Rick would want to hold her like that forever. Still, Rick led her to the cart. Thomas was glad that they were both safe. But Maris misunderstood his actions and thought he was bringing home a bride. Both blushed. Tried to explain that it was not so. It did not help that now even Thomas teased them. It seems he picked up Rick's kindness and now helps people. Luna thanked him for listening to her request, and Rick looked at him in surprise when he used healing magic on Luna's coachman, Ananto. Maris was simply glad that both Ananto and the cargo were safe. Luna thanked her and addressed her by name. Maris insisted that she could call her mother-in-law now if she wanted, and laughed seeing her son's embarrassed expression because he really took it seriously. Luna turned to Rick and thanked him once again. But in fact, Rick was grateful to her because her words about wanting to return to the carriage helped him sort out his feelings. Earlier, Rick buried the body of the bandit he had killed and stuck his sword into him from above. It was instead of a grave, and it was his way of putting a full stop to the matter. He closed his eyes and clasped his hands in prayer. Defending is not a mistake, but he promised not to draw his sword again when he loses his mind. After that, they returned. So, they reached Jilk commercial nation, Zurich. The guards at the gates stopped their carriage to check the cargo. Instead, they were surprised to see Luna inside. The guard asked what happened to her carriage, and Ananto explained that they were attacked by bandits. In any case, the important thing is that they are safe. Luna introduced Rick as the one who helped them. The guard touched his shoulder and thanked him for saving the two. Rick was surprised. He thought they had ruined everything. Oh right, bandits. He used magic and the captured bandits appeared out of nowhere. Ananto smiled proudly and praised Rick's incredible magic. The soldier looked at him and thought, why boast about someone else's magic? They already understood the situation with the bandits and would handle it here. And he once again welcomed them to Zurich. When the guard left, Rick thanked Thomas for everything and apologized for the sword he borrowed and left on the bandit's grave. Thomas reassured him that everything was fine and there was no need to worry about what had already happened. Moreover, he could always earn more later. Let him consider it a fee for the escort. It's inexpensive. So he will do business in this city for a few months and earn a little. He wanted to ask for permission first, so he asked if Zaji, the representative, was in the store. Hearing that Zaji was the representative, Maris was delighted. It seems she knows him. Luna's face darkened as she explained that her father, Zaji, died last month. Thomas was surprised because Zaji was supposed to be younger than him, so it could have been due to illness. Luna shook her head. Maybe it was an accident or a monster attack. They are not sure, but he did not return on the way back from shopping. Thomas apologized for making her recall a painful memory and prayed that Zaji may rest in peace. If Zaji is no longer the representative, the city leadership will determine the representatives in the next elections. In fact, the affairs are managed by Wales, and his trading company monopolizes Xerox products. They look like a new commercial faction and are in conflict with the trading company Moondrop, a faction of Luna. The reason she came to buy in Dortmund is that she thought things would go a little better if she left Zurich. She ran for the position of representative because she wanted to revive the Moondrop trading company. Rick was surprised and couldn't help but ask how old she was. She was 15 years old, the same as him, and it seemed that at that age one could still run for the position of representative. Thomas wondered if there were other candidates, and Luna replied that only the Wales and she. Thomas pondered this. This is just his personal opinion, but it is possible that the bandits who attacked her were sent by the trading company Wales. There were only 2 candidates, so it was clear who would be glad if the other candidate disappeared, and he didn't think there was much to consider here. Luna did not want to draw conclusions because there was no concrete evidence. Rick suddenly remembered that he had previously heard from a bandit and realized that she was being pursued on someone's orders. But now they cannot get any information from them. Ananto suggested talking to those they had caught, and decided to go where the guards were standing. Thomas felt that this could cause problems, so he advised Rick to keep silent about what happened on the road. Luna has no power, but he is definitely on the side of the Moon's Drop Trading Company. If she gets into trouble, she can always trust Rick, and if it can be solved with money, they can turn to him. And for those he can't handle, Rick will take care of them. Well then, he is going now, and they said goodbye to Thomas. Then Luna asked what the mother and son would do now. They planned to go to Maris's house in her hometown, where there is Karen's grocery store. Luna recognized that name because Karen always helped the Moon's Drop Trading Company, and offered to accompany them to a certain point, since the Moon's Drop Trading Company is heading to the store. They arrived at the Moon's Drop Trading Company to drop off Luna. At that moment, Nina in a maid's outfit suddenly went outside, worried about Luna. But when she noticed Rick and Maris, she immediately calmed down and bowed. Then she asked if they were business clients, and Luna explained who they were and that they helped her during shopping, after which Nina bowed a second time, politely introduced herself, and thanked them for caring about Luna. They will definitely come later to properly thank. Luna insisted on leaving now, but Nina reminded her that she was busy not only with the shop but also with the representative elections. The mother and son assured them that there was no need to worry about thanks, and that they could always come to visit. They continued walking to the shop, when someone suddenly called Maris and grabbed her by the shoulder. Mary recognized him. He was from the fleet. So much time had passed. Naval was glad to see her because 16 years had passed since she got married, and Maris smiled, noticed his clothes and thought it was the guard's uniform. He said he would protect the city like his father, and Naval remembered it well. His gaze fell on Rick, so he asked who he was. Mary grabbed Rick's hand and said he was her son. She also introduced him to Naval as her childhood friend. Rick bowed and greeted Naval. Naval seemed to already know about him. He had heard rumors that he was strong. Maybe he already knew that he was in the hero squad. Mary waved her hand joyfully, and boasted that her son was truly strong. After all, he defeated all the bandits by himself. He just told her to be quiet. Naval smiled proudly upon hearing about Rick's achievement. By the way, the captain is calling him. Next time they have time, they should calmly talk about the past. Then he said goodbye to them. When they were alone, Rick asked Mary to properly introduce them. But parents are like that. As they walked further, they passed by an unexpectedly large building. Maris recognized the building. It used to be a fruit store. They have everything. From small items and food to weapons, armor, and even magical items. It's like a large warehouse from the previous world. It belongs to the Wales Trading Company. As if on command, Wales appeared nearby. On the building's balcony, he gave an election speech and introduced himself to the crowd. He declares that he is running as their representative to meet their expectations. After Rick recovered memories of his previous life, as planned, he was expelled from the hero's party and the Newfield family, and together with his mother fled from the slums to the trading nation of Jilk. On the way to Mary's hometown, he helped the merchant Luna, who was attacked by bandits. They safely arrived in the city of Zurich. Soon there will be elections for the position of city representative, and 2 candidates are competing, namely Luna, the daughter of the previous representative, and another person who currently governs the city. Wales, who is suspected of ordering the bandits to kill Luna. Wales continued his speech. As everyone knows, there have been more monsters outside the city, so they should be concerned about whether they can get safe and reliable food. Don't worry, their whale trading company ensured food production in Zurich. They work closely with surrounding cities, so they won't cause problems for anyone. This store has all safe and reliable goods. He believes they will see it for themselves. Under no circumstances should his competitor, the trading company Moon's Drop, be allowed to win. Previous representatives really had some influence and provided everyone with acceptable goods. But that doesn't mean things will get better just because the daughter of the previous representative took his place. Just look at the low-quality products of the trading company Moon's Drop to understand that if they eat those vegetables and meat, they will have stomach aches, but with the Wales Trading Company, this won't happen. 3 men in the crowd laughed loudly and attracted Rick's attention. He didn't understand why it was funny since they were actors. Wales promised to listen to their voices, try new things, and get this stagnant Zurich moving. He asked them to cast their votes for him in the day after tomorrow's election. After finishing the speech, he went back inside together with the man with the low ponytail, who could have been a guard or an assistant and looked somewhat threatening. Mary thought that Wales was very popular, and Rick said that he did not like that style of speaking and how he belittled his opponent. Maris thinks the same, so they will have to support Luna much more. She will give not 1 vote, but as if 100 billion votes. Rick said this embarrassedly. He did not understand that they did not know how elections work because none of them had lived here long, so he thinks they cannot vote. Finally, they reached Karen's store, Mary's home. For her, it was the first return in 16 years, and for Rick, it was the first time, so he would have to greet and introduce himself. But for Grandpa and Grandma, he is just the child of that man who took half of their daughter's life, and whom they do not even want to see. He begins to get nervous, and his mother is probably nervous too. That's what he thought, but she really just bursts in without hesitation. The woman, who looked about the same age as Maris, was going to greet her as a client. But when she recognized who it was, she immediately hugged Maris, welcoming her home. 16 years in the wilderness is a very long time. Maris clearly went through hard times. Letting go of the hug, Maris introduced Rick as her son. Rick bowed. He did not know that his mother had a sister. Maris looked at him in surprise, and her sister smiled broadly and introduced herself as Karen. Maris laughed and said to stop joking. It turned out that she was her mother, and Rick was stunned. Karen introduced herself again, this time as his grandmother, and since she was Maris's mother, she was 51 years old, although outwardly she had not changed at all. Rick quickly bowed to show respect, and Karen just laughed and was glad to be considered young. At that moment the door opened, and Maris's father entered and hugged her. He was full of regret. If he had not been caught up in urgent matters then, if he had not gone to that city and met that man Gordo, he could have protected her from all this. But he could not protect her. Even in death, he could not forgive himself for it. He too had suffered all this time. For now he was just glad that she was safe, and Maris wiped her tears and said that she was protected by son Rick. And thanks to him, she was able to return. Rick bowed and introduced himself. Meanwhile, his grandfather was just stunned, looking around, and it was scary. When the grandfather approached him, Rick prepared for a blow, but no blow happened. Instead, the grandfather turned and left. Mary asked if they could live together from now on, and her father Daigo, 58 years old, told them to do as they wish. By the way, today they are closing the store. Rick expected not to be met with enthusiasm, but it really hurts. On the contrary, the 2 women knew that Daigo was very happy. Although it doesn't look like it on the outside, inside he is surely dancing with joy. So, the grandfather is a weirdo, as always. Rick doubted a little whether it was true and whether he could get along with Daigo from now on. Finally, Karen led them to the rooms. At the same time, Daigo, now left alone, was trembling. He could not believe he had a grandson, and that they even lived together. Nothing could make him happier. He raised his fist and rejoiced that he was alive. And moreover, his grandson Rick looked like him, a real handsome man. No, comparing his grandson to him is very cheeky. Rick himself is a talent capable of conquering all the women in the world. Just the possibility of seeing his grandson's face every day makes him feel like he is in heaven. It seems they will be able to create many memories and happily spend their old age. And if Rick is also handsome and an exemplary son, his popularity will grow even more. Wait, no, this cannot be. His sweet grandson could have been seduced and even deceived. So, as his grandfather, he must choose a good partner for him. But if it is about someone suitable for Rick, he can think of no one but Luna from the trading company Moonsdrop. Next time he will definitely introduce her himself. That way Rick will fall in love with Luna, and his reputation as the one who introduced them will grow significantly. Later that same day, Rick prepared beef stew, which he and Maris ate before leaving the slums. Karen was impressed that he could cook such delicious food using magic. Meanwhile, Maris quickly swallowed her food. Diego laughed at them for being so happy over a little broth, but it was clear that he liked it too. After all, he was the first to finish eating. When the day ended, Rick bid his mom and grandma goodnight, then quietly slipped outside. He used the detection skill and followed the person he noticed, hoping he was mistaken. In the commercial nation Jilk, in Zurich, our Luna from the trading company Moondrop, daughter of a former representative, is running for the position of city representative, and Wales, who now runs the city as a newcomer from the Wales Trading Company. At night 2 days before their contentious elections, Rick followed Navel, whom he noticed during the day out of curiosity. I hope he is just going on patrol. This is an empty place, but he keeps going inside. It seems this is his destination. Wait, he suddenly stopped. Maybe there is a change of guard here. No, unlikely. Rick's poor eyesight doesn't help him. Therefore, he used the skill of night vision. Thanks to this, he was able to see the man Navel met. This is the same one who was with Wales. This is bad. He hears nothing from there. In that case, he will use enhanced hearing, which provides about 5 times better hearing than an ordinary person. And Navel apologized for making the man with the low tail wait. This confirms it. They are acquainted. It was strange that Navel dealt with someone from the side of Wales, and he quickly figured it out. Noise noted that Luna returned unharmed, and Navel said they failed because of Rick. So this is what it was about, their conversation during the day. Navel did not say that only because Rick was previously in the hero squad. They knew that he alone defeated the bandits, whether Navel is familiar with his mother or not. Noise complained that Navel failed, although he was generously paid and even lent people. This cannot be justified, because no matter how favorable the odds were, elections cannot be predicted before the results are announced. And even if Navel's father, Captain Neld, manages the elections, they cannot calm down. Rick listened behind the wall. A private meeting between the candidates' allies and election observers completely disqualifies. It is necessary to find out whether this is an order from Wales or Noise is acting on his own. Noise assured Navel that if Wales wins, the attitude towards the guards will improve, despite the appearance of monsters. Life here is valued less than in other cities, and he cannot imagine that Luna planned this so far ahead. Navel understood. They have a strategy that guarantees Wales's victory. Noise turned away and said he did not expect much but would wait. But just in case, they will also find a way to overthrow the trading company Moonsdrop, of course legally. Rick became worried upon hearing that for Luna to lose the election, both the security and Wales's faction would start acting. Noise waved his hand and reminded Navel to ensure that no mistakes happen in the next 2 days before departure. From today's observations, Rick cannot even say who is on Wales's side. Even if he exposes them, no one will believe the word of a newcomer who just arrived in the city. He could tell the family or Luna and her people, but even if Luna then accuses them, they will just call it a conspiracy against Wales and everything will turn against him. This means he needs convincing evidence to expose their fraud. The election is the day after tomorrow. What should he do? Before leaving, Rick heard Navel whisper something about his mother Maris, but could not make out what exactly, so he just left. The next day, Rick woke up and immediately used magic to check the fleet and the Noise. Navel patrols in the morning, and Noise acts as the whale guard. Their stock is large, so many supplies are coming in, and so far nothing noticeable is seen. At that moment, someone knocked on his door. It was Karen who asked if he had any problems since he arrived here. Rick replied no. He even had his own room, so he was satisfied. The main thing was that he had nothing to complain about when they were all nearby. Karen was glad to hear that, but if he had any problems, he could just say so. Rick thought for a moment and noticed that something was bothering him. Karen insisted that he say what was on his mind. Rick just wanted to find out what kind of person the previous Zaji representative from the Lunar Trading Company was. And Karen sat down next to him and explained that Zaji was truly a good person. He was excellent at evaluating goods. He donated to churches and orphans and was an honest man. Rick thought that if Zaji could evaluate, then he was probably skilled in business, and indeed he was competent. But he got along so well with people that others gathered around him on their own. That was how he was. It seemed the relationship between Zaji and the townspeople was very good. Mary interrupted their conversation and informed Rick that he had a visitor. Rick stood up to leave, but before going, Karen called him and assured him that he could come to her again for any reason. Rick gladly agreed and left. and his visitor turned out to be Luna, who came to thank him. After the elections, she would definitely visit properly again. Maris thanked her for the help, although she was busy with deliveries. Rick was surprised. She really did all the deliveries herself. She wanted to deliver them all today, no matter what. In this case, Rick helps her, watching the scene from behind his dago. He wonders when these two even met, because his plan to raise his reputation as their Cupid is now ruined. After delivering all the goods, Luna thanked Rick for the help. Thanks to him, she was able to deliver everything faster. Rick replied that it was nothing. After that, he noticed that all the stores they visited were familiar to them. Zaja, her father, considered them friends or family, and she wants to protect that, so she goes as a representative. Suddenly they heard a scream, so they went there to find out what happened. There stood those three actors whom Rick had seen earlier at the whale's performance. The one with the mohawk, Gonza, and another with hair on his chest, and they heard rumors that bandits attacked Luna and she almost died. Luna said that she was alive, as can be seen, and that more importantly, what a fuss they are making. The shopkeeper, a friend of her father, explained that those three caused a fight with the goods in his shop, and Gonza said that it was not true, and that they were just giving an honest assessment as buyers. He took a cucumber and showed it to everyone, then despite the seller's protest, broke it in half, saying that it was wrinkled and empty. No one would want to buy such, and they laughed at the company Mood Drop Trading, saying that they were ashamed to display such for sale. Passers-by examined the vegetables and confirmed that they were really terrible. If very cheap, people might buy them for survival, but at market price no one would do that. Rick turned to them in surprise. Buyers are encouraged to stigmatize these products. Luna tried to explain that because of the trading company Wales, which buys all the vegetables in the Zurich area, they are left only with leftovers, and Gonza thought that sounded strange. Ultimately, buying wholesale reduces costs, so they can sell to customers cheaper. Wales is just doing what any trader does. He is not breaking the law. He skillfully twisted her words and ruined the reputation of the company Moon's Drop Trading. He said that a customer who came to Zurich for the first time today would be more willing to buy from Wales Trading Company, because it seems better than Moon's Drop Trading Company. Rick wondered if these were the buyer's true feelings, because now they definitely look like stooges, and Gonza put his hand on the shopkeeper's shoulder, warned that with such developments his business would perish, and advised him to quit the Moon's Drop Trading Company and join Wales. If he does so, he will be supplied with fresher vegetables, and he will earn more. The shopkeeper trembled, and said he owed the late head of the trading company Moondrop. Gonza whispered in his ear like a devil. The person he owes is no longer here, so it doesn't matter. The result is obvious, but next time he will definitely wait for an answer, and they left. The seller apologized for not being able to unequivocally reject their offer, but Luna understood his position. In fact, she should be the one to apologize for making him sell such vegetables. Rick could not see Luna upset and quickly came up with what he could do. He called the shopkeeper and Bobivadi and asked if they could sell those goods from Dordland, for which Luna risked her life to bring here. The shopkeeper immediately agreed. He also wants to help. Luna gave him a few jars of salt from Dordland and wanted to sell them for 10 silver coins. However, the shopkeeper said that would not do, because the whale trading company sells the same for 8 silver coins. 27 hours remain until the end of the elections. In this world, even tasteless salt is considered a luxury. 1 silver coin costs 10,000 yen. The difference between 10 and 8 coins is significant. If the origin and quality are the same, people usually choose the cheaper option. So, this is what Noise meant when he said they would also come up with a plan to destroy the trading company Moonsdrop. Rick was deceived, so that was the whole idea. They knew that Luna was buying salt, so the big players purchased a huge batch from the same region and started selling it cheaper simultaneously with the trading company Moonsdrop. And then the salt from Luna cannot be sold. Luna apologized to the shopkeeper to whom she was distributing salt because she did not imagine that the trading company Wales had such a large stock. They were on the seller's side, wanted to support her both in elections and in business. But now they will have to apologize because they owe her predecessor and really wanted to help. And when such a big company targets them, they are powerless. Rick doubted whether they were afraid of the trading company Wales, but they are merchants, so from the perspective of profits and losses, switching from the trading company Moonsdrop to Wales is a logical choice. Lunabode thanked everyone for supporting the company Moonsdrop since the time of its previous leader, which caused everyone to panic and say that she would close it, and if things continued like this, she would drown in debt. About 300 cans of salt. It costs 3,000 silver coins and constitutes a debt of 30 million yen. The seller anxiously asked what she was going to do now. Luna smiled and assured them that everything was fine because she has connections, so they should not worry about her. And everyone, even Rick, believed it. and told her not to hesitate to reach out if they could help her with anything. When they left, Rick noticed that Luna's hands were trembling, and the tears she was holding back were streaming down her cheeks. Worried, he held her in his arms. He was disappointed because it was obvious that only Luna was suffering here. She pretends to have connections so that no one else worries. He asked why she was crying, and Luna replied that it was nothing. Rick knows what is happening and understands, but she still does not turn to him. She really plans to carry this alone. Luna tries to do everything by herself, but it won't work that way. If it happens again, she will have to bear it alone again. That is why he wants her to learn to reach out and ask for help, so this time he will not ask her, will. Rick was impressed that she heads a trading company, especially since they are the same age. And Luna explained that her father died and her mother fell ill, so she had to take over the affairs. Rick hugged her tighter. She could have handed it over to someone else, but she did not. That means she truly loves the company Moon's drop trading. Like her father, she wanted to bring useful tools and delicious food, and offer them to the townspeople to see their smiles. Creating such a company was her dream, precisely because it is something valuable to her. She cannot lose sight of what is truly important and what needs to be done. Rick would like to meet her father and ask her what kind of person he was. Zaji was a gentle father, but strict in business, and he taught Luna that before selling goods, she must first learn to behave politely with customers and with colleagues they work with. After all, business exists only thanks to customers, producers, and traders who connect them. Rick expressed his understanding that her father's teaching was to think about clients and not act alone, but to work together with everyone. Not alone, but together. There was no such person in his life, but she is different. He envies that she has so many friends in this city. Hearing his words, Luna realized that she had never truly understood her father's words. Rick asked what she was going to do now. Maybe it's already too late, but however, she still intends to bow before everyone and suggests searching together for a better way to solve this. She finally decided to rely on her comrades. Then Rick will help too. Luna doubted whether this was really okay, because he could be her friend, but he was not from the trading company. Rick put a finger to her lips to make her be quiet. He believes that this is a sufficient reason to offer his help. Luna turned away, blushing. He had already done so much for her, so she should not rely on him anymore. But he ignored her words and asked her to honestly tell about her feelings. The truth is that she wants to protect the trading company her father created, and she wants him to lend her his strength. Of course, he will do it. The company Whales Trading resorted to all underhanded tricks, and he will make sure they pay for it. No, he finally understood their positions and how close she is. He instinctively pulled her into his arms. Now he pays too much attention to it. He can't imagine how he used to talk to her before. The two shyly turned away from each other. Luna wanted to go and ask everyone for help, but first, Rick would like to settle one matter first if she doesn't mind. He asked her not to talk to anyone about what he was going to do. Luna was initially embarrassed, but imagining the possible, she blushed, quickly agreed not to say a word, no matter what he did, and even swore on her life that she imagined what Rick was going to do. He turned to the jars of salt and applied his sacred Genesis magic. The bitter taste of Eldorado's salt is explained by the high concentration of magnesium chloride. In other words, the people of this world ate nagari. In that case, he imagined seawater that was diverted to salt fields, then dried in the sun and wind by the traditional salt drying method. This should yield salt rich in minerals and with a saturated flavor. Luna asked what he was doing, but instead of an answer, he offered her to try the salt. She obeyed without further thought. She was surprised at how tasty it was. There was no bitterness at all. She had never tasted such delicious salt before. Rick was delighted and asked her to try another one. It was a cucumber sprinkled with the same salt that had been sprinkled earlier. Luna tried it and beamed with pleasure because it was incredibly tasty. She had never tasted anything more delicious in her life. Yes, this is a complete success. Instead of abruptly announcing a new type of salt, Rick decided to let people try it first so they would want to buy it, and Luna thought it was a good idea, because not only the magic that transforms the salt, but also the very idea of serving dishes with it, before selling the product without a reputation, was brilliant. He only copied the method from the previous world, but maybe here it is considered revolutionary. All right, only the rest of the jars remain to be enchanted. Luna apologized. In the end, she shifted everything onto him and did not help at all. Rick said that was not true. This time they had prepared basic materials, so it took little mana. Without them, he would have had to spend several days making it. Luna sighed with relief and was glad she could help him. Rick clenched his fist and encouraged Luna, saying that only she could sell it, so she promised to do her best. Their moment was interrupted by Thomas, who suddenly came to visit because he thought Luna needed to be informed about the news he heard outside the city. He heard from a farmer who dealt with a company trading whales that they brought suspicious people for negotiations about the price and took advantage of the situation. forcing him to sell at an extremely low price. It was truly humiliating. It seems they do not value producers at all, and even if customers knew, they might still choose the cheaper option. However, for merchants who understand the circumstances, conducting business like this is simply unacceptable. Luna feels the same way. It's as if she rejects the principles of her father's trading company, which trades in moondrops. She thanked Thomas for sharing the information. Although such a conversation does not bring votes, she became even more determined. And she just came up with something brilliant. At Karen's store, they held a free tasting of freshly prepared vegetables fried with salt. Customers tried them and said they were very tasty. The fried vegetables are truly sweet, and the salt is completely different. They are sincerely praised, and no one expected that it could be sold like this. Luna said that the idea to try the new salt belonged to Rick, and most importantly, they would not let the vegetables grown by their farmers go to waste. There are 24 hours left until the end of the elections, so here begins the counterattack. They should visit the stores once again. The strategy of the Whales Trading Company to oust the Moonsdrop Company was to sell the same goods cheaper than them, and in response, Moonsdrop began producing high-quality salt using sacred creation magic, and, using the same sales tactics as Rick in his past life, challenged them. He and Luna again visited the stores, asking them to do trial sales of the new salt. Everything was going smoothly, or so it seemed to him. Maris called Luna and informed her that they had big problems, so Luna and Rick ran up to her and asked what had happened. Maris smiled because, due to good reviews, the salt was immediately sold out, and the sellers gathered to report that it was also immediately sold out in their stores. Tears of joy welled up in Luna. If this becomes popular in the centers, their debts can be paid off. In fact, this might even become a reason for election campaigning. At that moment, 3 fools approached and asked what the noise was about. And it seemed they had lost their minds because they could no longer buy anything decent. Yesterday they were bothering the vegetable seller, and now this too. Luna asked if they needed anything, and Gonza thought that she might refuse to participate in tomorrow's elections. Luna assured him that there was no need to worry, but Gonza just laughed and thought she was pretending to be brave because he was sure that the goods they bet on were not selling. She has a huge debt and unsold stock, so she could refuse the elections and hand over her salt to the Whale Trading Company, of course only on the condition that they become servants of the whales. 2 behind him laughed, as expected from their brother Gonza. The sellers were surprised at the nonsense they were talking about, came to ask Luna if she still had goods because their salt was sold out. Another seller agreed. Those who cannot trade are they, the trading company whales. Gonza snorted. Probably they are idiots. The clients obviously would have bought the same goods if it were 2 silver coins cheaper. So these buyers just don't know how to count money. They blame the clients for their mistakes, just as Rick thought. These people are good for nothing. Meanwhile, Luna could not believe that they said such things to clients, and that they were really members of the trading guild. Gonza chuckled. The truth is that clients can buy cheaply thanks to the trading company whales. If it didn't exist, they would have to pay exorbitant prices, for example for expensive salt. And Luna doubted that selling quality goods expensively could really be considered a crime. The choice is up to the buyers, and she believes that her salt tastes better than theirs. Gonza snorted. She dares to say that when the salt is from the same place of origin. What a funny girl. Then they should try her moon drop of salt. Luna fulfilled his request and poured salt onto her palm. Gonza examined the tiny grains and thought that by themselves they wouldn't change the taste. But he licked a bit and was surprised how tasty it turned out. And now he looks at us as if we are to blame. 2 others tried the salt. It was not bitter at all. Compared to it, the salt from Dordland is incomparable. Rick smiled. The taste revealed their true feelings. They did not think it could actually taste so good. They did not know where it came from. Gonza clenched his fist and raised the block. If this salt had not existed from the very beginning, there would be no problem. Luna covered the cart with jars of salt, but that did not stop Gonza. He could just die along with the salt. But Rick would never allow that. He used the holy magic of creating Class 2 windshield glass to prevent him from throwing the block. 2 of Gonza's subordinates mocked him. Blocking it with magic is useless. No one can overcome the power of their brother. Rick used the evaluation skill on Gonza. Without a doubt, his strength indicator is off the charts. Moreover, he is also using the strength enhancement skill. He did not understand why he suddenly did this. It was dangerous, and Gonza claimed that their Master Veils even gave them a role. They will eliminate everything that stands in the way of the Whale Trading Company, including Salt and that cheeky Luna. He does not care that murder is a crime. He will do as he wishes. The truth is that he has killed many people and can still walk the city thanks to Veil's protection. The crowd anxiously looked at each other, doubting whether what he was true. Instead, Rick was worried that if people saw such thugs being left unchecked, They would believe that Wales had made a deal with the soldiers. Wales must not be allowed to win. Rick was blocking those blows that Gonza kept striking at his barrier, but it was clearly difficult for him. Gonza smiled and said that he would regret ever challenging him, and it was destined for him to die cruelly. Rick turned to Luna and told her to run while she still could, but she refused. Because if he got hurt, it would be her fault, so she couldn't just abandon him and run away. And the question arose whether she really wanted to die with him, and what he should do. His strength rating was lower than Gonza's. Even considering equal skills, he couldn't beat him in a pure strength contest. If it came to that, he would stand against him using sacred magic of incredible power. There were cases when guys enhanced by magic managed to defeat Gonza, but still, he had never lost in a pure strength duel. That's why he was clearly better than some porters from the hero squad. 2 lackeys laughed at Rick because he couldn't protect a woman without magic, but to me they sounded like banana. In any case, the truth was that with magic the fight would end instantly, but if this idiot insisted so much, fine. In a strength contest, Rick would defeat him thanks to his pride. He grabbed Gonza's hands when he tried to fend off using only strength without magic. 2 henchmen snorted at him. They considered him a fool because he tried to stop it with bare hands. Gonza chuckled and was decisively about to crush Rick with the power of his muscles. Rick resisted. Regardless of how strong Gonza's muscles were, Rick would not lose. Even with weak muscles, he would fight. He annoyed the vegetable seller, tried to spoil the salt into which he poured his magic, and most importantly, tried to kill Luna. This is unforgivable. He will completely shatter the pride of this muscular brute and make him feel defeat. First, he will use the sacred magic of creation to create an enhancement for skill A. Then he will strengthen his power and skill. Cast the 4th-class spell. Create Genesis, the holy magic of creation, and his might suddenly increased. He was pushed back, and Gonza's hands trembled as he realized that Rick had enhanced the skill itself, which was supposedly impossible. Rick clenched his hands. He is proud of his strength. It's a pity, because he is losing in this clash of strength. This is impossible. Gonza could not believe it. His muscles were no match for these skinny hands. Rick stepped forward, pushing Gonza back. This means Rick's strength is greater than Gonza's strength. His praised muscles turned out to be not so strong. He will pay for putting Luna in danger. Rick raised his fist and hit Gonza in the stomach. He fell face down on the ground. 2 of his henchmen carried him back, not believing that he lost to some kid. They threatened to report this to Vales and make Rick pay for it. The crowd rejoiced and said that serves them right and that they should never come back. Luna apologized for bothering Rick again, but he said it was not true. He really was able to show his strength because she was nearby. This is the power of love, friends. To see them all in love. The merchants envied and teased them, causing both to blush with shame. In the trading company Wales scolded Gonza. He apologized and explained that he lost only because Rick's strength suddenly increased. But Wales was angered by something else. He heard that Gonza was spreading rumors that he killed people during the city riot. Gonza froze and tried to explain that he only wanted to show everyone Wales's strength, but Wales interrupted him by hitting the armrest of the chair with his fist, and Gonza acted foolishly, doing too much. No one will vote for a trading company that says it killed people. Nearby Shum pondered. And during the day the trading company Moonsdrop suddenly offered new salt, and it was unclear where they got it from. Wales got angry and cursed out of frustration, and tomorrow were the elections, and 2 completely unexpected things happened at once. He was even more disappointed when Noise reported that after investigation, it turned out that the approval ratings of Wales and Luna were the same. But Noise assured him that due to lack of time, bad information about them would not have time to spread widely in the city, and the only weapon of the trading company Moonsdrop was that salt. Considering the goods supplied by the Wales Trading Company and its contribution to the lives of the townspeople, its achievements surpass those of the competitor, and it is hard to believe that it ended up in a completely disadvantageous position. Wales shouted that he wanted a guaranteed victory. Noise assured him that Naval had already talked about voting. He said there was a plan to ensure his absolute victory. Wales asked what this planet was like. So, the Noise was explained. Hearing this, Wales couldn't help but smile. It really was a reliable plan. But if he loses due to some unlikely event, Noise smiled because he had already prepared everything, expecting such a possibility. After all, such things happen constantly in the world. These are unforeseen accidents. Finally, election day arrived. Rick regretted that they also couldn't vote, but what could be done? Karen and Daigo voted for Luna instead of them, so he was grateful. Thomas was with them too. After all, voter turnout in Zurich is over 90%, and these are elections everyone is watching. Karen informed Rick that the ballots are collected and counted inside the building where the guards stand, and this raises suspicion, so he will go check. He used detection skills and was able to see what was inside the building. he noticed someone near the ballot box. That person looked like an election observer. Next to him were Noise and Navel. What exactly are they planning? Then he noticed that there were 2 ballot boxes there. He used his detection skill to look into the box, and it turned out that they cheat exactly like that, a banal way of cheating. But he was distracted when Mary's touched him and pointed at Luna, who was standing on the platform with Wales now. Wales stated that she would only witness her own defeat, and that from the very beginning she had to give him the candidacy. And Luna replied that she would not lose because she has strong allies nearby. She will defeat him and build a city where everyone can live in peace. Wales giggled. What a fiery one. She should say such things only when she becomes a representative. But as long as he is here, such a future will not happen. Luna boldly stood before him. She will definitely say those same words to him. Sparks flew between them. Even Thomas and Rick noticed it. Even gentle Luna cannot withstand the methods of large trading companies. Because in this world, or rather in this city, the system is not as regulated as in Japan, so the influential do whatever they want. For politics to be clean, Luna must win in any case. Rick only hopes that people will not vote under the influence of momentary whims, but will think about long-term consequences, and it remains to be seen what will happen. He came to his senses from his thoughts when someone nearby said that Captain Neld is coming out. It seems he is the father of Naval and the one who is supposed to oversee the elections. Neld knows that people want to hear the results, but ask them to wait here until the counting is finished. This is bad. They do not know how many here are under the influence of Wales. But if the ballots are counted in that sealed room, Luna will lose. So they need to stop this at any cost. Rick raised his hand and suggested counting them here, so that everyone could immediately see the results and share the excitement. Wales and Neld panicked, telling him not to be ridiculous. The counting will take place in the back room as always, so they must stay here. People from outside who do not even know this city should not speak. Rick wondered if there was a reason why the ballots could not be counted here. For example, to make fraud impossible. Wales angrily asked what kind of baseless claim this was. They say it is baseless. Of course, Rick has evidence. He will make them show it to everyone. The crowd agreed with Rick's proposal. Even the idiot Gonza asked the Wales to show them his victory right before their eyes. Luna is not against it either. Rick smiled. Now let's see how the Wales would act in this situation. Wales clenched his teeth in anger and shouted that he had never heard of such a ballot count. The count was always done in the back room of the precinct, so there was no need to change the method. He said, always. Rick doesn't know how long Wales has been in Zurich, but this is simply a hotbed of fraud. And besides, it's not the same as what he said yesterday. If he remembers, he said he would listen to everyone, challenge new ideas, and move this stagnant Zurich forward. Citizens want ballots to be counted here, so instead of clinging to old methods, he should fulfill his campaign promise and try something new. Wales said that such a thing should not be decided by an outsider, then ordered Neld to take the ballot box to the storeroom and start counting immediately, and Neld quickly obeyed the order. The crowd began to whisper and suspected that he was really hiding something, so seeing the commotion, the Noise advised him to go with the flow because the ballot box would be used anyway. There is only one ballot box for voters, so he should be confident. He will definitely become the new representative. Wales smirked and cleared his throat, and having satisfied their request, Rick caught him as planned. Wales ordered Neld to bring the box. He believed that reforms should be postponed until the official election, but perhaps he was too attached to Zurich's traditions. Here, in front of people, they must determine the winner. Neld nervously pulled out the box. Wales thinks he has already won, but Rick will not allow that. He used second-class vortex creation magic. Because of this, Neld stumbled and threw the box off the platform. People picked up the fallen ballots and realized something was wrong when each contained only Wales's name. A few more ballots fall to the ground. When it was opened, everyone said Wales. Someone shouted, asking if anyone had a ballot with the name Luna. Silence. The crowd was silent. This means the urn contains only votes for the Wales. So one of the guards pulled out the real ballot box. Citizens protested, and he believed that with such a substitution he could become Zurich's representative. Wales decided to put all the blame on Neld. Neld believed this was untrue. Wales knew he was putting pre-marked ballots into the box. His son Naval told him about it. Maris exclaimed in shock and confusion and turned to Naval. Wales still insisted that he knew nothing and had never dealt with such people. But the citizens did not believe his lies, so he shouted towards the Noise, who threw the smoke grenades. The Noise meant to cover their escape was too skillful, and Rick began to doubt who he was. The guards immediately searched the vicinity and approached Neld. Someone shouted that they had no choice and were forced into it. Then he turned to Naval, worried that the attitude towards him would not improve if this continued. But Naval shook his head. He no longer cared. He addressed Mary's and said that he remembered the great cause he once swore to. It must not be forgotten. They must atone for their sins, and so they were arrested. This time, of course, they will conduct a real count in front of everyone. So, after an honest vote, a new representative of Zurich was elected. Turnout was 92.8% results. 2,128 against 2,512. Luna was elected. Now she is a representative of this city. She defeated Wales and ran into Rick's arms, rejoicing that they won the election. She was very grateful to him. After all, it was thanks to him that she managed to do it. Without him, she would not have won. Rick interrupted her, saying that he only helped a little because he believes that such a wonderful person as she should be a representative. Since she met him, he constantly helps her, and she is very grateful. The aunt behind smiled, looking at Luna with her boyfriend, and Rick blushed. She knows that Luna is glad to be elected representative, but the rest should be saved for later, when they are alone. The men look at Rick with hostility. Two immediately let go of each other, and Luna tries to escape home, hiding behind her mother. But before she could escape, she was asked to complete the electoral formalities, and so the elections ended. At the trading company, Wales Trading Company, Wales could not hold back and swore because they all let him down. Then he asked Noise if everything was ready. He paid Noise well, so failures will not be forgiven. That kid Rick, he was the one who defeated the disguised bandits and guards, and he will definitely finish off both him and Luna. First, he will destroy the Lunar Drop Trading Company, and then plunge them into deep despair. Noise looked with a sly smile as Wales raged. This man, Vales, is crazy. He grabbed a magical device, laughing maniacally, and if he uses it, the trading company Moon's Drop will instantly burn down. No, maybe the whole area will turn into a scorched wasteland, but it doesn't concern him. Noise just stood silently behind him, and if he stays with this madman, he will die too. However, that's fine. With this man, there will be no boredom, peace and order. This is not the world he wants. Vales plans to kidnap the moon and keep it as his toy. He will torment it for a long time, and when it becomes useless, he will throw it away. This is the only way for it to be forgiven. Noise thought this man was crazy. All right, he will accept his madness. He just has to make sure not to bore him, because if he does, he will kill him. Another world, El Dorado. When Rick restored memories from life before reincarnation, he got tired of the party of heroes who insulted him and his native home, so he behaved in a way to get expelled. He fled the wilderness of the Grand Dane Empire together with his mother, and on the way to the trading state of Jilk, where his mother's family lives. He saved a merchant named Luna from a bandit attack, and they safely reached the city of Zurich. Vales, who was managing the city during the representative's absence, began to obstruct Luna from the trading company Moon's Drop in every possible way. Other candidates for the representative, but Rick repelled them all using the holy magic of Genesis. And today, on election day as planned, Vale's fraud was exposed, and Luna, the daughter of the former representative, was brilliantly elected. Rick congratulated Luna again, who thanked him. She asked if he had been waiting for her. He really had been waiting because Wales had not yet been caught. She bowed, apologizing for the trouble, but Rick assured her that she was not to blame for anything. He was just acting on his own. Luna wondered where the Wales could have gone. Rick did not know, although he suspected one possibility. He intends to take revenge on both, and when Luna heard this, her face distorted with fear. No wonder she turned pale. Returning from Dordland to Zurich, she was almost killed. Since the Wales are not visible, they do not know when his gang might attack. Therefore, he is worried that Luna was left in the trading company Moondrop. But he can only protect her. He asked her to stay at his place tonight, and this shocked her very much. She blushed, various thoughts were spinning in her head. Rick had no idea what she was thinking. They thought it was better for them to be together because it was too dangerous for her to be alone. Luna nervously fussed and explained that it wasn't that she didn't like the idea. It's just that they had just met and it seemed a bit rushed. Rick grabbed her by the shoulders, thinking that maybe she didn't want to bother anyone again. But this was a matter of life and death, so even if he seemed a bit harsh, he wouldn't let her suffer anymore and would definitely protect Luna. He insisted without words that she go with him. Luna swallowed and finally agreed. She will go with him, but hopes he will give her time to cleanse her body. Rick was about to agree when he realized something. Although he was on guard with detection skills, they didn't know when the Veil people might attack. He prefers that she come as she is. No, she can't accept that. Today was election day, so she was sweating from nerves. Rick understands what she feels, but first she needs to be taken to his home. Luna blushed even more, thinking that Rick was very passionate. A new representative was chosen for the townspeople, and this is a turning point. Rick is also desperately trying to convince her. Actually, he is asking her for a favor. Luna said in surprise that he wanted to apply an assessment to her, So Rick explained that he just wanted to know her abilities just in case. But if she doesn't want him to do it, he won't. Luna thought it was normal because he would understand later anyway, and Rick didn't hear her and decided to praise her immediately. He froze when he saw her status window. Everything was fine until the phrase hidden pervert appeared. He didn't understand what it was. Should he tell her this? He was shocked, and Luna thought she might have an amazing gift. Her eyes sparkled. He didn't know what to do. Probably he misread it. He wondered if skills sometimes fail. Completely unable to imagine serious Luna as corrupted, apologized, and asked to apply the evaluation skill again. Luna agreed to this without hesitation. If he hadn't made a mistake reading before, he could just tell her the truth. They say one of her nicknames is Closet Perv. It seems the more the girl demure looked, the dirtier her thoughts became. He wouldn't say so. In any case, he used the evaluation again. And yes, it still sounds loud and clear. He doesn't know how to tell her. But when he thinks about it, Luna, the modest beauty, secretly has naughty fantasies. That's the best. Now he can see her a little differently. They suit each other so well. And he was surprised when Luna suddenly asked him to tell her status already. First, her level is now 8 out of a maximum of 100, so she can still grow a lot, and the title marked with question marks can be unlocked under certain conditions. He also asked if she could use holy magic, but she replied that she could not. She had never used magic, not even once. It is strange, her status says that she can. He instructed her to try to concentrate magic in her palm and recite the first-class restorative magic spell. Luna asked how to do it. Rick suggested focusing attention on the hand. Luna did exactly as he said. Enchanted High Heel, Class 1, Magic of Rapid Recovery. But it turned out that nothing happened. She blushed with shame and asked Rick not to laugh at her. He waved his hands and promised not to laugh. She is a beginner, so it is understandable. But if she practices, she will be able to use it. Luna sighed, thought that she might finally be useful to him, and asked if anything else was needed. Rick stated that there was nothing else without hesitation. So, he definitely shouldn't say that she has the title Closet Perv, and if he confuses strong affection for her with what she feels for him, and because of this people start hating him, that would be the worst. Better not to be too confident. Still, the skill of evaluation is very useful. He can see the statuses of other people, so Rick asks her not to tell anyone that he can do it, because it is easy to abuse. Okay, she understood and will not say a word, even if it costs her life. Rick waved his hand and assured that she can speak if her life is in danger. At that moment, he noticed noise near the whales, approximately 900 meters west-southwest from the place where they were. But they are not moving towards them. They are heading to the trading company Moon's Drop. He thought their target was Luna and believed they wanted to eliminate her and take the representative position. Maybe they plan to do something with the store. Unlike Japan, there are no surveillance cameras here, and the security level is low. There are blind spots everywhere. He can't just leave it like that. He told Luna that it seems Wales and his people are heading to the trading company Moon's Drop. So for now, he will go and catch them both. But Luna insisted on going with him. If they want to do something with the company, she simply cannot ignore it. Besides, her mother is in the store. So, they are trying to separate them. If so, Wales's faction might attack Luna when she is alone. So it's better to keep her close to him. He agreed to take her with him and reminded her not to stray from him. He asked for permission to lift her again, and she agreed. Since she allowed it, he picked her up and dashed at full speed using Class 2, the emergence of sacred vortex magic. At the same time, Wales caused chaos in the trading company Moon Drop. Shum gave him a magical tool to burn everything. He believes that as long as the power of that person stands behind him, he will always be able to return. Shum ordered him to step back. While he used the Firestone to cause an explosion, Rick ran there at full speed, carrying Luna and hoping to make it in time. Just as Wales was about to cause an explosion using the Flamestone, Rick charged and deflected it using second-class windshield magic. When he landed, he put down Luna and asked what Wales was going to do with someone's house. Wales was stunned and did not understand where they came from. Rick stood in front of Luna, who asked why Wales acted that way. The reason is obvious, he does not like them. Wales clicked his tongue, disgusted by how she and her father Zaji pretend to be good people. That's why he got rid of him. And now he even has a daughter growing up. Luna couldn't believe what she heard. He just said he got rid of her father. Kit chuckled. Exactly. He was hindering him from becoming a representative, so he removed him. He disguised it as a bandit attack and ordered them to eliminate him. However, she survived. Rick felt that was the case, but in reality, the bandit attack was organized by Wales, and moreover, he was the one who killed Zaji. Luna clenched her fist and shouted angrily at the kits. With tears on her cheeks, Wales laughed even harder, promising to keep her as his slave. She told him not to be ridiculous. She would never become the slave of a man who killed her father. This man is extremely vile. At that moment, a dagger suddenly wounded Rick's side, but he noticed in time and parried the blow. That made a noise. It seems Wales's tantrum was just a distraction, so noise could strike unnoticed. Rick told Looney to stand behind him and used magic with his left hand. Throwing weapons is a troublesome skill, so he would rather deal with the noise first. And using the skill of appraisal on him, Rick learned that Noise is an assassin. This title means a person who specializes in night killings. Rick had never seen the ability to use magical items before, and one must not forget his characteristics, so Rick cannot underestimate him. Deflecting attacks from short swords with protective magic can be risky, so he needs to quickly resolve this in hand-to-hand combat. Just as he thought this, the sound of another pair of daggers was heard. That Rick blocked. He cannot get closer. Then he will use long-range magic. But before he could do anything, Noise had already thrown several more daggers. This is bad. His throwing skill is very annoying. If this is the magic of holy creation, he might have a chance. No, he does not know what damage this will cause if he carelessly uses it in the city. And he cannot just use it like that. If he fought head-on with magic, he might be able to defeat Noise. But the holy magic of creation is too powerful. Noise was amazed that Rick had not a single scratch. No wonder his subordinates failed to kill Luna. Rick smirked and said he had been too confident. He had a limited number of daggers. This may be true, but he is exactly the one who cannot afford to boast, the whales agreed. Because if he gets even a little scratched, it's all over for him. Rick froze in confusion, and Noah stood aside. He serves the problematic master who reveals all their cards. Rick looked at the dagger and did not believe that it was poison. Exactly so. On these daggers is the poison of the great paralyzing viper Orochi, a monster that only high-ranking adventurer groups can hunt. Even a slight scratch paralyzes the body. The ear cannot afford even the slightest mistake, and in its current state, it has no way to correct it. To cure abnormal conditions, he needed holy magic of at least 6th class, or he could try to create a level 6 restoration spell using creation magic, but he probably lacked mana. At least if he had paralysis-resistant skill, he could handle it. Noise smiled and asked what happened while Rick's movements grew stronger. Rick cursed to himself, deflecting daggers that kept raining down. Maybe he would have to test his shield. He cast a level 2 windshield magic. However, the dagger passed through it. Although Rick deflected the attack almost immediately, Noise pulled out a few more daggers and said he was lucky not to be injured, although his shield was broken. This is not a coincidence. Rick moved as if he had already been hit and tried to block with his shield, which proves that magical shields cannot deflect this technique. Luna apologized because it was her fault for going with him. Rick smiled reassuringly and promised to show that he easily deflects sound daggers, so she need not worry. Yes, that's right. Behind him was someone he had to protect. He could not let Luna see him weak. To calm her, he needed to look strong. If he continued to deflect his attacks the same way, Noise would run out of daggers sooner or later. He needed to hold on a little longer. But just when he thought the fight was going in his favor, a woman came out of the alley after the noise and witnessed the scene. Rick forgot. Although it was behind the house, it was still the city center, so someone could be nearby. The woman ran in fear and called for help. Noise threw a dagger at her, and Luna reached out to stop it. She would get hurt. Therefore, Rick throws himself in front of her to block the dagger. However, another dagger from the shadow of the first struck him in the side. Wales laughed hysterically. Finally, he was hit. Now it was the end for him. He was doomed. Rick grabbed his side and thought that because of this he would not fall. To his surprise, he fell to one knee. His body did not obey. Luna ran to Rick, who was now lying collapsed on the ground, warned her to step back. The sound of another dagger, this time aimed at Luna to prevent her from moving. The woman successfully broke free and called for help. Noise decided to just leave her. First, they needed to finish their business here. Rick tried with all his might to move. If this continued, they would both be killed. Noise smirked, surprised that he could still move. His spirit was worthy of respect. Meanwhile, Wales ran up and stepped on his face, angry that he had interfered with his plan to become a representative. If he had fallen so low, he was only a pest now, and pests needed to be eliminated for the sake of peace. This time he hit Rick in the stomach. Rick lay and took the blows. It seemed there was no way out, no spell he could use, and with his current strength he could do nothing if it was magic. He can still gather magical power. Thanks to this, he can still use magic. So there is no need to use protective magic. The shield won't help, because even if he defends himself, Luna will suffer. And offensive magic should not be used either, because in such a state he cannot aim accurately. If he does nothing, this reprisal will turn against Luna. He absolutely does not want to allow this. Moreover, due to the noise, abilities and protective magic lose their meaning, and this will not solve the problem. Luna weakly called Rick and asked him to reach out. Hearing her voice, Veils stopped trampling Rick and turned to her. She remembered that she and Zaji do not like to watch someone suffering, so she decided to endure it instead of him. He grabbed her by the hair and told Rick that if he had not approached her, he would not have to die too. Now she will watch him die. True, if Rick had not met Luna, no one would have stepped on his face and hit him in the stomach. But Luna is so kind, cares about others, and is so easily embarrassed. Although the time they spent together was short, she is one of the few people in this world whose views are close to his. Therefore his answer is already ready. He would never allow this to happen. Veils laughed. So, he is as fake a good guy as she is. Then he must die and regret it. He ordered Noise to kill Rick, and Noise immediately drew a dagger. He would do it gladly. He approached Rick. What a pity. If he had nothing to protect, the Noise could have defeated him. Rick could not help but curse. If it were not for this paralysis, he would never have lost to the whales or the Noise. Instead, Veils pulled Luna harder by the hair and told her to watch carefully. If she hadn't tried to protect that woman earlier. No. If she hadn't tried to become a representative of the city. Then Rick wouldn't have died. It was she who broke his life. Seeing Luna moan in pain and cry made Rick's face contort with anger. They dared to bring her to tears, those two. He will never forgive them for that. Even if he dies, he will drag them both with him to hell. Rick raised his hand and tried to create a holy fire arrow of the 3rd class. He was determined to burn every cell of Noise to ashes. Noise pointed his dagger at his own hand and asked what he was doing. He will not allow him to behave badly. And after that, he stabbed the knife into Rick's wrist, causing him to moan in pain. He suffered a 2nd attack. The effect of the first paralysis is still active. And if it continues like this time he won't even be able to move a finger. Next time he will definitely be killed. Noise noticed the expression on his face and asked if he was afraid when they were going to kill him after he had killed people. What an absurdity. He cut Rick's cheek with a dagger. Rick needs to do something. He needs to think, before the paralytic poison spreads through his body. Wait, if you think about it carefully, there is paralytic poison in his body right now. When creating items and enhancing skills, he can spend less magic if he has a catalyst. And if he uses the paralytic poison in his body as a catalyst, it should work. Whales ordered Noise to kill Rick faster to cause Luna despair. Noise likes to torment an opponent who cannot move due to paralysis, but they are in the middle of the city, and he does not know when someone might intervene. So he decided to obey Whale's order. If Rick takes this dagger, he will die, and Luna will be enslaved, but he will never allow that. With his creation magic, he created the skill Resistance to Paralysis. Smiling, the Noise struck him with a dagger, but Rick stopped the blow with his hand. No, Noise couldn't believe it. He shouldn't have been able to move his hand. Well, fine, because of this he will be paralyzed again. Rick looked at him angrily. Unfortunately, the paralytic poison no longer works. He grabbed the dagger and stabbed it into Noah's hand. It makes him scream in pain. This is impossible. Until now he was paralyzed. Rick stood up and told him that the paralytic poison had just stopped working. He instantly assessed himself and noticed that the class of his creation magic, which he could use, had increased. He intuitively felt that if he were 5th class, he could create the skill Resistance to Paralysis. However, it was very close. The thought of what could have happened if it had failed makes him shudder. In any case, paralysis now suppressed the Noise. Only the Whales remained. Whales warned him not to move, but he himself froze when Rick went further. He grabbed Luna by the chin and threatened her that he would do something if she did not return and stop moving. But Rick is not afraid of a man without a weapon. Although in his soul he wants to tear apart the one who stepped on his face and hit him in the stomach. And now the most important thing is to safely return Luna. He warned Whales to release Luna. Otherwise he does not know what he will do to him. And Whales did not listen, and even threatened Rick that Luna was in his hands. Although his hands are trembling, he is unarmed and has many vulnerable spots. Rick can do it. He threw a dagger towards Whales and cut his own stomach. Whales screamed in pain. He is exaggerating, it is just a little blood. The Whales groaned in pain and fell from the paralytic poison, releasing Luna. If this continues, she will fall to the ground. Rick hurried to catch her in his arms. Barely made it. He is glad he was able to save her. If she had disappeared in his embrace, he would have fallen into deep despair. Rick applied 3rd-class healing magic to Luna's wound, which she had received earlier. She groaned and apologized, but Rick assured her not to worry because he did it himself. But Luna cried and said that if she had not met him, this would not have happened. Even at such a moment, she thinks only of others. She probably will not be able to forgive herself if she thinks that someone suffered because of her, so ordinary words are unlikely to touch her. So he decided to be honest with her. In the world where he was, some people had power, and there were many vile people who deceived others and pretended to be good on the outside but were actually bad. But there he had no power, and he could do nothing about those villains. Luna believed that he was strong, and Rick just smiled at her and continued his story. When he found himself in this world, the people in power who did whatever they wanted increased even more, and he began to think that wherever he went, the world would not change, and Luna, listening, did not understand who he was. Rick did not answer, and just thought about how his father and stepbrother humiliated him. Although there were good people, it seemed to him that there was no one with whom he would truly be well. But among all this, he met a person in this world who thought the same way. Luna asked who that person was. Her eyes widened when he hugged her tighter, saying that it was her. That is, if she said something like, if she had not met him, he would have been sad. He wants Luna to be by his side from now on, and for her to get to know him better. He categorically refuses to part with her for someone like Vales. Luna cried. She was also glad to have met Rick, and from now on wants to be with him. She broke free from his grip and used Class 1. A powerful healing magic is working on his wound. The pain gradually recedes. She is still a burden, but at least she can do it. The wound has closed. This is healing at Class 1 level, as it should be for divine magic. Rick took his hand and enthusiastically said how amazing she is. She now uses magic correctly. He is glad she healed him because it hurt a lot, but she saved him. Luna touched his cheek and healed the cut that was there. She will roll back his previous wounds and will no longer regret meeting him. With these words, Rick will now be able to do everything in his power, regardless of what opponent appears. Luna smiled sincerely, thanked Rick for the help, and was very beautiful. As expected, a smile suits her. He will never again let that smile disappear. Rick secretly swore in his heart. In the Grand Dine Empire, seeing Sasha von Gartenberg from the hero party here, Chancellor Marius suspected that Heinz failed the third attempt to conquer the dungeon. Yes, although they added a holy mage, the floors that the previous team easily passed now caused them problems and forced them to retreat. She knelt before Emperor Exil von Grandine and informed him that without a doubt Rick's contribution was significant in the hero squad led by Heinz due to his past achievements. Marius was surprised that such a person even exists because it is quite different from what he heard before. Then he asked where Rick is now, and Sasha told them that he was expelled from the party and kicked out of the Viscount's family. But now he should be in Zurich of the Jilk trading nation, his mother's homeland. She believes that the loss of such talent would be a significant loss for the Empire. Marius raised his eyes to the Emperor and said that according to rumors from the holdings of Viscount Gold, he was expelled because he sold internal Empire information to neighboring countries. Sasha stood up for Rick and said that he would never have done that. When she realized they were in the presence of the Emperor, she immediately apologized. Marius asked Excel what they should do, and the second thought that they would find out if they crossed swords at least once. In that case, Marius will send the envoy, Waltz, who is the third person of the Imperial Intelligence Department. In Zurich, Wales and Noyes were arrested, as well as several guards. The incident was safely resolved, and everyday life in Zurich returned to its usual rhythm. 10 days have passed since then. Rick sat on the edge of the bed and cast magic on the jars of salt. He believes he must stop using creation magic for anything else except this. Then he was so focused on saving Luna that he created salt from the original world, and if he had to give other things as well, it would have complicated both time and mana. Moreover, if he creates unusual things and stands out, he may make unnecessary enemies, and if the nobles find out about it, they will start demanding various things from him. So from now on he will use creation magic only for himself or his family, or only in extreme need. But when he was struck by Noyce's paralytic poison, he lost his composure from panic. If he had enough mana and a higher class in creation magic, he could create magic to remove negative states or resistance skills without catalysts. His current goals are to increase his level in creation magic and raise the maximum amount of mana points. The fastest way to achieve this is to level up, so he's looking for a good place to hunt. Just as he was leaving the room with a box of salt, Mary informed him that Luna had come to visit him, although she was busy. Luna tried to object, saying she was just curious about how things were at Karen's shop. Mary laughed. She knew that Luna came because she was worried about Rick's condition, so she would leave them alone for now. Rick approached Luna and thanked her for her concern, but he was already completely fine. Support magic could not have restored him like that, so it was all thanks to her sacred magic. She was just glad she could help. Still, at that time she could not help but think that it would be easier if she were better at magic. It seems she also felt that her power was insufficient. Luna turned away, blushed, and apologized because she should not have been sad near the shop. They watched as Mary greeted the customers. It seems the shops in Zurich thrive thanks to Rick's salt. It's nice to hear, but looking at the long queue of customers, it seems he really overdid it. It would be ideal if the townspeople united so that everything would prosper. Luna also strives for this. He would also like to use his power for such things. Just then, he noticed a man who was asking about salt. At this time of day, a man rarely comes here. He looks like a traveler, but maybe he just came to look at souvenirs. Luna asked Rick what was going on, and Rick assured her that nothing was wrong. He was just lost in thought. Then he asked her if she knows any good places in the city where one can level up. She was just about to go to the town hall. Doesn't he want to go with her? The deputy representative might know something, so Rick gladly agreed to go. He followed her while the man-client carefully watched them from behind. When they reached the town hall, the man in glasses greeted them and introduced himself as Harris, the deputy representative. He shook Rick's hand. He was sincerely grateful for his help regarding the elections. But it was nothing. Rick simply could not tolerate corruption. Harris smiled upon hearing this. He almost had to work here with those rude whales. He considered him an honest man. Then he turned to Luna and said that she should not be underestimated either, because she came here with such a handsome man. Luna looked at him in surprise and said she didn't quite understand what he meant, but felt it was not good. When she called Harris uncle, Rick was confused. The thing is, Harris has long known Zaji, Luna's father, and the former representative. They have known each other since ancient times. In any case, he is sure that Zaji is glad that Luna became a representative. Ah, right, he should offer them a place. And if they want, they have special grapes. It seems grapes are grown in Zurich. Rick sat on the sofa and took a piece. Luna sat down next to him and told Harris about Rick, consulting with her about leveling up. Meanwhile, Rick asked if Harris knew any good hunting spots. Harris pushed his glasses up. It seemed they came here instead of the Adventurers Guild. It was the right choice. After all, adventurers in this city are completely rotten now. Luna asked him not to say that, and Rick wanted to know what exactly he meant. Harris explained that since Zurich is located close to the Empire, experienced adventurers go there when they pay more for the same job, and as a result, only low-level adventurers without skills or problematic people, who for various reasons cannot leave the city, remain here. Luna stood up and scolded him for going too far. Harris ignored her reproach and continued. In any case, the guild's activity has effectively stopped. He doesn't mind showing them everything personally. But this case might just help what Luna is trying to do. Rick turned to Luna and asked if she was starting something. Yes, she's thinking of restoring trade. To the east of Zurich lies the Granding Empire. To the south, the city is surrounded by mountains. To the north, plains, and to the west, forests. But recently the number of monsters has increased, and now trade is only possible with the Empire in the east. At first she wants to send requests to subdue monsters in the northwest part. Rick was not sure if there were targets for subjugation there. It was the Queen's ant, a giant ant with a body probably 3 times larger than an adult human. Size is one thing, but the real problem is that it has a high reproductive capacity. Soldier ants are born endlessly, no matter how many are destroyed. Many squads have been exhausted and died, and as Harris said, adventurers cannot be relied upon. They hope to borrow the strength of a former member of the party of heroes. Luna was shocked, and Rick's face turned cold, so he understood. Exactly. This is a trading country, so information gathers here from everywhere. Harris knew about Rick at least more than Hines, and Rick looked a little worried because he didn't know exactly how much this man knew about him. Luna turned to him, surprised that Rick was a former member of the hero squad. Rick apologized. He did not intend to hide it, but it was hard to talk about. Luna finally understood. Now many things became clear. In any case, they are asking for this because they believe in his strength. They want him to lend them his power to conquer the Queen Ant. Of course, they will pay him for the service, and this also suits leveling up. If he defeats it himself, what will then happen to the monster conquest? He will take several orders from the Adventurers Guild. This will repeat what happened when he made salt. It's not just about money, but also about boosting the confidence of adventurers, so a good plan is needed. Harris asked Rick what he thought, and Rick agreed to take it upon himself. Regarding payment, it could be postponed for now, but he wanted to know the location and number of monsters. So he asked if he could first go on reconnaissance. Harris asked what Luna thought, and she agreed without hesitation. In that case, he will be given a guide. The next day, Rick went on a reconnaissance mission, said goodbye to his mother, and thanked his grandfather for the new equipment. Karen praised Dago, who was desperately engaged in research. He was watching their store. He seemed shy, a true tsundere. When Rick arrived at the meeting place, he looked around for the guide. But there he met Luna. She greeted him good morning. He was surprised where she was heading with such a large luggage, and realized that she really was the guide. So they should set off. Rick wondered if it was really good that a representative of the city was accompanying him personally. She said everything was fine, so that's good. The chapters end at 14. Thank you for watching, friends. I hope you like this manga. Have a good day.